Hello and welcome to Week in Review on Trust Television. I am Martia Omar. On Week in Review, we'll take a look at some of the major events in the past 1 week, giving you a chance to catch up in case you missed out on any of our updates during the week. We'll start with a story from Katsina, where police in the state has arrested 50-year-old Abdullahi Bello, spiritualist, for offering prayers and providing charms to bandits in the state to enable them carry out their nefarious activities against people in the state. The police public relations officer in the state, Isa Gambo, paraded the suspect alongside 4 of the bandits involved in Amar's kidnap at the command's headquarters on Monday. The police said it recovered 2 motorcycles, 8 mobile phones and several charms from the spiritualist. The acclaimed spiritualist, who hails from Kandamo village in Niger Republic, is fingered in the abduction of one Amar Abdulkader by a team of 7 bandits from his residence in Katsina metropolis on the 12th of January 2022. Meanwhile, no fewer than 1,192 persons have been killed by bandits in Kaduna State between January to December 2021. And this is coming as Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai calls for establishment of military theater command in the state. The Kaduna State Commissioner, Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, gives the figure at the presentation of the State Annual Security Summit. The report.
The commissioner explained that Kaduna Central recorded the highest number of killings with 720 in the year under review. He noted that the figure is higher than that of 2020 with 937.
1,192 were killed across the state. 3,348 citizens were kidnapped. 891 citizens were injured. 13,623 cattle were rustled in 2021.
Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai appeals to the federal government to see the possibility of creating a theater command in bandit stronghold similar to that of the Northeast to enable a holistic approach in dealing with terrorists.
We urge our military, police and other security agencies to ensure coordinated actions and intensify simultaneous kinetic operations against these terrorists until they are decimated to the point of surrender. The Kaduna State government appeals to the federal government to create a theater command similar to the situation in the Northeast to confront the insurgency that has clearly emerged in 5 states of the Northwest and Niger State that share continuous and contiguous forest ranges. The creation of such a theater command will enable a holistic approach to counter-insurgent operations across the 6 affected states and the enhanced coordination of the resources of the armed forces, the Nigerian Air Force, the Nigerian Army and the Navy, as well as the police, the SSS, our respective state vigilance services, hunters and other local volunteers to fight these insurgents.
The governor also re-emphasized his earlier position that bandits must be dealt with as there is nothing like repentant bandits.
We continue to emphasize as a state government that we do not believe there is any phenomenon like repentant bandits. Any person that makes a conscious decision to secure arms, challenge the authority of the Nigerian state and threatens the lives and property of Nigerians does not deserve to live or to be granted any concession by the society. There are no immediate or remote causes to justify terrorist conduct. Those that hide behind this are either ethnic jingoists, religious apologists, or fail to recognize that no legitimate government or society can survive by tolerating terrorists or negotiating with those that menace law-abiding citizens.
The report also showed that 3,348 people were kidnapped in the state in the year under review.
Payment of annual rent in Abuja might soon be a thing of the past as the Nigerian Senate passes for second reading a bill seeking to regulate the rent payment in the Federal Capital Territory. The proposed legislation, sponsored by Senator Smart Adeyemi, specifically seeks to stop yearly advance payment of rent and compel house owners to collect the rent monthly in arrears. Take a look.
The sponsor of the bill, Senator Smart Adeyemi, representing Kogi West, in his lead debate, said the bill is to help cushion the effect of outrageous rent on properties in Abuja, the nation's capital. He observed that many properties in Abuja remain empty as a result of outrageous rent placed on them, noting also that a large number of people who reside in the capital territory put up in shanty towns.
Distinguished colleagues, you may wish to know that many residents of the FCT are finding it difficult to cope with huge rent payments. And as an aftermath to this, Mr. President, many houses built within the city center for such purposes are empty. Of course, they were equally empty because some of these houses were built from stolen funds. Therefore, Mr. President, legislation must be aimed towards a better and developed society and towards justice, fairness, equity, and improved standard of living.
Other senators who equally threw their weight behind the bill described the proposed law as people-oriented.
Except if you have somebody who is within the city center, majority of them are actually within the outskirts, either in Nasarawa State, Niger State, or some parts of other states that are joining the FCT. This is because, like we all know, it's extremely difficult for most of these young Nigerians to get the quantum of money that represents 2 years' rent.
We have to do something to the masses of this country. And the only way we can do it is to make sure that this is paid monthly rather than being paid in, let's say, in advance. Because the real situation is that most of the people are salary income earners. And some of them, even if you take their 3 years salary, they cannot pay the money required for advance payment.
The system that we operate today encourages corruption in the service. And if this Senate can take an action that will find or give no justification for public servants and civil servants to get engaged in corruption, then we will have the moral authority to come so hard on corrupt officials. But where we operate a system that makes it impossible for people to survive under an ideal situation, I think we have not utilized the provision of this constitution as provided by the framers of our constitution.
In opposing the bill, Senator Chimaroke Nnamani said rents are determined by market forces like the cost of acquiring land and building materials, among others.
It should be driven by market forces. Such market forces as availability of land, cost of building materials, income. If government wants to ameliorate the sufferings of the masses, government can go into housing schemes, mortgage schemes, housing credit facilities, not control the business of private individuals in an emerging African democracy. I therefore oppose vigorously this bill.
His position, however, did not stop the passage of the bill for second reading.
A bill for an act to regulate the mode of payment of rent on residential apartments, office spaces, etc. in the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, and for other matters connected there with 2022, second reading taken.
The bill is referred to the Senate Committee on Housing, given 4 weeks to report back to plenary for further legislative input.
And still in the Senate wants the federal government to, as a matter of urgency, deploy fighter jets to hideout of bandits and flush them out. And the Senate, said that they want these terrorists and the bandits behind the kidnapping and killings of Nigerians to be flushed out completely. And the call follows a point of order raised on the urgent need for the federal government to take drastic actions against banditry and kidnapping in some parts of the country. The report.
Senator representing Katsina South, Bello Mandi, while relying on Order 41 and 51 of the Senate rules, noted that the act of banditry and kidnapping has become a daily occurrence in Katsina with huge consequences. The lawmaker recalled that on Sunday, 31st January 2022, gunmen struck Ruwa Godia, a community in Faskari local government area of Katsina State, where 38 people were kidnapped.
The Senate notes that the act of banditry and kidnapping has become a daily incident now in Katsina, with its consequence of loss of lives, means of livelihood, and displacement of communities. Further notes that on Sunday, 31st January 2022, government struck Rongodia, a community in Faskari local government area of Katsina State, where 38 members of the community were kidnapped. Aware that the federal government had made frantic effort in curbing the menace by setting up Operation Sharandaji, an interagency task force to tackle cases of banditry, cattle rustling, and kidnapping in Katsina State.
Other lawmakers in their contributions faulted the inability of the military to curtail the situation despite several calls for action.
Mr. President, I can say that enough is enough. Because what is happening now in Katsina, this shows that yes, we have to not only condemn it, we have to do something very serious. Because we cannot just sit down after declaring these bandits, terrorists, and then allow them again to continue with all these rubbish acts. So, Mr. President, we have to really look at it critically.
The expectation of this Senate is that there is supposed to be a remarkable difference in success in terms of the fight against insurgency, banditry, and militancy in Nigeria. The military is getting better funding from the government. And what we expect is to see improvement in output. I know the resources are not enough, but recently, in the last 1 year or 1.5 years, government has upscaled the level of funding for our military.
In another development, the Upper Legislative Chamber confirmed the nomination of 7 persons as National Electoral Commissioners and Resident Electoral Commissioners of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), as nominated by President Muhammadu Buhari. The confirmation of the nominees followed the consideration of a report by the Senate Committee on INEC. Chairman of the committee, Senator Kabiru Ganya, in his presentation, recalled that the confirmation request was made by President Muhammadu Buhari in compliance with the provision of Section 153, subsection 1F of the Constitution, and in pursuant to the provision of Section 154, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended.
The committee received a petition from Taraba Elders Forum against the nomination of Major General A.B. Alkali retired over the seeming inconsistency in the rotation of the nomination. According to petition, the nomination started from Taraba 2003 to 2008, Commissioner from Taraba, Adamawa 2 from 2008 to 2015, Gombe in 2015 to 2021. The expectation is that the fair thing should do to rotate the nominee from Taraba, not any other state but Taraba. Writing to this, the committee resolved that all the 3 states, Taraba, Adamawa, and Gombe, had been nominated and benefited between 2003 to 2021.
I want to commend President Muhammadu Buhari for these nominations. All 7 of them. These are very, very well accomplished people. The nomination is very well reasoned, and frankly, like before, I never expected anything less from Mr. President.
The Senate has also received a formal request from President Buhari to confirm 5 nominees as executive directors of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority.
Letter from Mr. President, dear distinguished Senate President, confirmation of appointment of executive directors of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority in accordance with the provision of Section 41, subsection 2 of the Petroleum Industry Act 2021, I am pleased to forward for confirmation by the Senate the appointment of the underlisted 5 nominees as executive directors of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. In order to fast-track the effective takeoff and decision-making in the newly established Regulatory Authority, the Distinguished Senate is kindly requested to consider and confirm the nominees in the usual expeditious manner. Please accept, Distinguished Senate President, the assurances of my highest consideration. Yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari.
Meanwhile, the federal government is working with Kaduna State government on the implementation of the At-Risk Children Protection ARCP in the state. Stakeholders at the meeting said that the project, if implemented, will address the issue of Almajiri and other vulnerable children in the streets. The
menace of Almajiri and out-of-school children have been a source of worry to the nation, especially as security challenges continue to overwhelm the state apparatus, prompting government to set up ARCP to address the challenges of marginalized youth and children aged 0 to 24 years, as well as attain the Sustainable Development Goals. Resource person Dotun Adebayo says the 2-day capacity building workshop is to build the capacity of the state to address the issue.
Once this is concluded, it will mean that there's capacity in the states to implement the program whereby we're going to be reaching out to vulnerable children who are at risk within Kaduna, and we have invited people from various local governments to participate so that they can identify the beneficiaries that are going to be targeted for the sake of this program. We are working with various existing databases, and there's going to be also data gathering, which will be done not by us at the federal level, but by the state actors. So the state actors who know these children, who know where they are, who know where they reside, who know what the problems are the ones going to identify the children across the various local governments.
Some participants say the project is going to curb down the menace of sexual and gender-based violence, banditry, and communal clashes.
The target for the project is at-risk children, because we have a number of children on the street. And tackling the issue of Almajiri, I think Kaduna State took a bold step as a program they initiated sometimes last year to evacuate a number of them from the state, where because by statistics, a number of them are not really from Kaduna State. They are from neighboring states who are sent for searching for knowledge to Kaduna State, but because of one or two circumstances of them not being able to fend for themselves is why they go on the street begging for what to eat.
Nigeria is plagued with out-of-school children, right? About 13 million by certain estimates. And Kaduna, being a northern state, is especially affected by this. The purpose of the At-Risk Children project, even though it was created by the federal government, is that state governments would actually implement them. And what this means for Kaduna is that it would provide the architecture, both the implementation plan as well as counterpart funding towards ensuring the success of this program and targeting children who are aged 0 to 24 years, using different criteria will ascertain which ones are actually vulnerable and which ones deserve to be catered for and provided for by the RP.
The ARCP consists of 7 pillars, which are basic literacy, numeracy, health and nutrition, mental health, including substance abuse, entrepreneurial, financial literacy, and vocational skills, among others.
And to political matters, a former governor of Cross River State, Donald Duke, says he's concerned over calls for youth to take over governance in 2023. The former governor speaks exclusively to Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman, urging leaders to treat the nation's fragile political atmosphere with utmost caution.
Donald Duke, a two-term governor of Cross River State and a presidential candidate in the 2019 general election, welcomed the newly introduced clauses in the reworked Electoral Amendment Bill by the National Assembly, which is currently before the President for assent.
I agree with that completely. When you're appointed into a public office, you give it your all. we don't expect any distractions. So if you're going to go through the onerous process of campaigning, you can't combine that with holding this public office and giving your utmost to the public, right? And there's also going to be abuse. When you hold a public office, you are being looked after partially by the public. You're given a vehicle, you're given staff, you're given drivers. Are you going to use that to contest your own private ambition? So it is perfectly in order.
The former governor, however, expressed reservations on the clamor for the emergence of young leaders at the forthcoming elections, citing previous experiences.
Let's be careful. Youth without experience is an explosive, right? It's young people without experience that led this country into a civil war. They went around slaughtering the leaders at that time, and we suffered the consequences. They were in their 20s. You know, the leaders of the first coup were in their 20s. So but experience and youth is a great mix, because youth has energy, but energy without control is dangerous.
He tasked Nigerians to elect credible personalities with requisite capabilities to take the country out of the doldrum, irrespective of parochial sentiments, as the nation set for another cycle of elections. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
You're still watching Weekend Review on Trust Television. There's more to come after the break. Just stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Week in Review on Trust Television. And moving on to events that occurred during the past week, Nigeria's 4 major aviation unions on Wednesday vowed to ground activities in the sector from Tuesday, February 8, 2022, over the failure of the federal government to release the negotiated conditions of service of aviation agencies since 2013 and the non-implementation of the national minimum wage and consequential adjustment since 2019. In a notice of industrial action jointly signed by officials of the unions and issued to aviation workers, the association said flights and related activities would be suspended, failure to resolve the issues. The Aviation Workers Union recalled that they had earlier sent ultimatums to the Federal Ministry of Aviation and its 6 agencies about workers' concerns, but nothing, and they're yet to respond. The unions include the National Union of Air Transport Employees, Air Transport Services, Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Association of Nigeria Aviation Professionals, and the Amalgamated Union of Public Corporations, Civil Service Technical and Recreational Services Employees. The former governor of Jigawa State, Sule Lamido, has expressed his support for the presidential aspiration of the Sokoto State's governor Aminu Tambuwal in 2023. The ex-governor gave his support during a courtesy visit from a large delegation of the members of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) from Sokoto as part of the ongoing consultation by Tambuwal with major stakeholders in preparation for formal declaration about his presidential ambition. Lamido was speaking at his Bamaina residence in Birnin Kudu local government area, advised the older generation of politicians to give way to the younger generations who have fresh ideas.
Ethnicity, religion, tribalism, zone, and what have you. And that's about time we know, and the United Nations, they know we save Nigeria. Our son here declared that he's going for the Nigerian presidency, and I think he's eminently qualified, former speaker of the country, as I've been governor. And therefore the experience and also the youth around him, because people like us in the early 70s were being called analog, and therefore have been phased out. We accept with grace that we're old. And we want to make sure that we give Nigeria the kind of leader Nigeria deserves, not based on his own ethnic background or religion or zone, but then based on his own capacity and competence.
We are here to consult with him and the stakeholders of our party in Jigawa State on the aspiration expressed for us to now come and consult on a possibility of declaring for the ticket of our party in no distant future. Nigeria deserves leaders that can unite it. And there is the need for us to come together, first as a party, to unite ourselves and present candidates for the office of the president that is competent and that will be, by the grace of God, a president of Nigeria and for Nigerians.
And that brings us to the end of a Weekend Review for this week. Please join us next week for more. Join us on our social media platforms for more updates, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I am Martia Umar. Thank you for being a part of Weekend Review.